Welcome to the Constitution class by the Grumpy Old Vet. This is Lesson 21 in this series. This lesson will cover the immediate history of the federal Constitution, and we will go over every section and clause of all 7 articles of the Constitution. With that, let's move out. Welcome to the class, The Constitution, brought to you by the Hillsdale Justice Project at Liberty Hall, narrated by John Rutan. The U.S. Constitution established America's national government and fundamental laws and guaranteed basic rights for its citizens. It was signed on September 17, 1787, by delegates to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, presided over by George Washington. Under America's first governing document, the Articles of Confederation, the national government was weak and states operated like independent countries. At the 1787 convention, delegates devised a plan for a stronger federal government with 3 branches: legislative, executive, and judicial, along with a system of checks and balances to ensure no single branch would have too much power. The Bill of Rights' 10 amendments, guaranteeing basic individual protections, such as freedom of speech and religion, became part of the Constitution in 1791. To date, there have been a total of 27 constitutional amendments. America's first Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, was ratified in 1781, a time when the nation was a loose confederation of states, each operating like independent countries. The national government was comprised of a single legislature, the Congress of the Confederation. There was no executive or judicial branch. The Articles of Confederation gave Congress the power to govern foreign affairs, conduct war, and regulate currency. However, in reality, these powers were sharply limited because Congress had no authority to enforce its request to the states for money or troops. Soon after America won its independence from Great Britain, with its 1783 victory in the American Revolution, it became increasingly evident that the young republic needed a stronger central government in order to remain stable. In 1786, Alexander Hamilton, 1757 to 1804, a lawyer and politician from New York, called for a constitutional convention to discuss the matter. The Confederation Congress, which in February 1787 endorsed the idea, invited all 13 states to send delegates to a meeting in Philadelphia. On May 25, 1787, the Constitutional Convention opened in Philadelphia at the Pennsylvania State House, now known as Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence had been adopted 11 years earlier. There were 55 delegates in attendance, representing all 13 states except Rhode Island, which refused to send representatives because it did not want a powerful central government interfering in its economic business. George Washington, who'd become a national hero after leading the Continental Army to victory during the American Revolution, was selected as president of the convention by unanimous vote. The delegates, who also became known as the framers of the Constitution, were a well-educated group that included merchants, farmers, bankers, and lawyers. Many had served in the Continental Army, colonial legislatures, or the Continental Congress, known as the Congress of the Confederation, as of 1781. In terms of religious affiliation, most were Protestants. 8 delegates were signers of the Declaration of Independence, while 6 had signed the Articles of Confederation. At age 81, Pennsylvania's Benjamin Franklin, 1706 to 1790, was the oldest delegate, while the majority of the delegates were in their 30s and 40s. Political leaders not in attendance at the convention included Thomas Jefferson, 1743 to 1826, and John Adams, 1735 to 1826, who were serving as U.S. ambassadors in Europe. John Jay, 1745 to 1829, Samuel Adams, 1722 to 1803, and John Hancock, 1737 to 1793, were also absent from the convention. Virginia's Patrick Henry, 1736 to 1799, was chosen to be a delegate but refused to attend the convention because he didn't want to give the central government more power, fearing it would endanger the rights of states and individuals. Reporters and other visitors were barred from the convention sessions, which were held in secret to avoid outside pressures. However, Virginia's James Madison, 1751 to 1836, kept a detailed account of what transpired behind closed doors. In 1837, Madison's widow Dolly sold some of his papers, including his notes from the convention debates, to the federal government for $30,000. To understand the Constitution, we must first have a good grasp of the principles in which it is founded. This is best done by reading the Federalist Papers. These were a series of essays written by Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison, the father of the Constitution. These essays, along with their opposition essays, known as the Anti-Federalist writings, give us invaluable insight into the architecture of the Constitution, as well as the meticulous way that the institutions of our government were constructed. James Madison was convinced that how we set the institutions up were of more consequence to keeping personal liberty than anything else. Republic comes from the Latin res publica, meaning the public thing. And what is the public thing? The law. In America, the supreme law is the federal Constitution. If we look at the definition below under number 1, it states, a government in which supreme power resides in a body of citizens entitled to vote and is exercised by elected officers and representatives responsible to them and governing according to law. So, the two hallmarks of a republic are that all authority resides in the great body of the people, and that each republic must be represented by elected officers. Democracy comes from the Greek demos kratos, meaning the masses rule or mob rule. Definition number 1 is a relatively new definition, invented in the 20th century, one that was unknown to our founders and would have been rejected by them. A true democracy, as our founders understood it, is a system in which all authority is held by the great body of the people. However, each person must vote individually, as each person represents themselves. Definition number 3 is the hallmark of modern democracy and progressive ideology. It states, the belief in or practice of the idea that all people are socially equal. In Federalist number 10, Madison explains that this is not practicable and that it breeds faction, which is the enemy of all popular governments. It is cause-based, not effect-based, as Madison explained. The founders created a compound republic, in the words of James Madison, not a democracy. The founders believed that because all are created equal, all have inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not guaranteed happiness, but the pursuit thereof. Under a democracy, then all are guaranteed the same happiness because of the false notion that all are socially equal. Your happiness probably won't look like my happiness. Samuel Adams had this to say about democracies. Remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy that did not commit suicide. This compound republic is best defined by James Madison with this quote, Federalist Papers 45. The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite. The former will be exercised principally on external objects, as war, peace, negotiation, and foreign commerce. The powers reserved to the several states will extend to all the objects which in the ordinary course of affairs concern the lives and liberties and properties of the people and the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the state. The Federalist-style national government was intended to have external power, and when there were disputes between states. The Republican-style local government was intended to have all of the domestic power. This is very clear by Madison's comments in the Federalist Papers. The Constitution begins with a preamble and then is broken down into 7 articles. Each article is broken down into sections. Each section is broken down into clauses. Article 1, Legislative, has 10 sections. Article 2, Executive, has 4 sections. Article 3, Judicial, has 3 sections. Article 4, States Relations, has 4 sections. Article 5, Amending the Constitution, has 0 sections. Article 6, Supremacy Clause and Oaths, has 1 section. Article 7, Ratification of the Constitution, has 0 sections. Article 1, Legislative Section 1, Congress, Section 2, the House of Representatives, Section 3, the Senate. Section 4, elections. Section 5, powers and duties of the House. Section 6, rights and disabilities of members. Section 7, legislative process. Section 8, definite powers of Congress. Section 9, powers denied Congress. Section 10, powers denied states. Article 2, executive. Section 1, the President. Section 2, powers and duties of the President. Section 3, other powers and duties. Section 4, impeachment. Article 3, judicial. Section 1, judicial powers. Section 2, jurisdiction. Section 3, treason. Article 4, states' relations. Section 1, full faith and credit. Section 2, interstate comedy. Section 3, admission of new states. Section 4, federal obligation to states. Article 5, amending the Constitution. Article 6, supremacy clause and oaths. Section 1, national obligations. Article 7, ratification of the Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Article 1, Section 1, Congress. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. All lawmaking powers are given to the U.S. Congress, which includes the Senate and the House of Representatives. Article 1, Section 2, the House of Representatives. Clause 1. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. Clause 2. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years, and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. 1. The House of Representatives will have members elected every 2 years by the people, based on the qualifications required to vote in the state's largest legislative branch. 2. To be a representative, a person must be at least 25 years old, a U.S. citizen for 7 years, and live in the state they represent. Article 1, Section 2. The House of Representatives. Clause 3. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this Union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least 1 representative, and until such enumeration shall be made, the state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose 3, Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence Plantations 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4, Pennsylvania 8, Delaware 1, Maryland 6, Virginia 10, North Carolina 5, South Carolina 5, and Georgia 3. The sections in yellow were changed by the 13th Amendment and the 14th Amendment, Section 2. 3. Representatives and taxes will be divided among states based on their population, which is calculated by counting free people, excluding non-taxed Indians, and counting 3/5 of other people. A census will be taken every 10 years. There will be 1 representative for every 30,000 people, but each state will have at least 1. Until the census is done, states will have specific representative numbers. Article 1, Section 2. The House of Representatives. Clause 4. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. Clause 5. The House of Representatives shall choose their Speaker and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment. 4. When there's a vacancy in a state's representation, the state's executive will call for a special election. 5. The House chooses its Speaker and officers and has the power to impeach. Article 1, Section 3, the Senate. Clause 1. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof, for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The portion in yellow was changed by the 17th Amendment. 1. The Senate will have 2 senators from each state, chosen by the state legislature, serving 6-year terms, with each senator having 1 vote. Article 1, Section 3. The Senate. Clause 2. Immediately after they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year, of the 2nd class at the expiration of the 4th year, and of the 3rd class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. And if vacancies happen by resignation, or otherwise, during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. The portion in yellow was changed by the 17th Amendment. 2. Senators will be divided into 3 classes, with 1 class up for election every 2 years. If a vacancy occurs during recess, the state executive can appoint a temporary replacement until the legislature meets. Article 1, Section 3, the Senate. Clause 3. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. Clause 4. The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. Clause 5. The Senate shall choose their other officers, and also a President pro tempore in the absence of the Vice President, or when he shall exercise the office of President of the United States. 3. Senators must be at least 30, have been a U.S. citizen for 9 years, and live in the state they represent. 4. The Vice President is the Senate's president, but only votes if there's a tie. 5. The Senate chooses other officers and a temporary president when the Vice President is absent or acting as president. Article 1, Section 3. The Senate. Clause 6. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Clause 7. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment, according to law. 6. The Senate has the power to try impeachments, with the Chief Justice presiding over presidential trials. Conviction requires a 2/3 majority. 7. Impeachment judgment only includes removal from office and disqualification from future office, but the person can still face legal punishment. Article 1, Section 4, Elections. Clause 1. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. Clause 2. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. The section in yellow was changed by the 20th Amendment. 1. Each state sets its own rules for elections, but Congress can change them, except for where senators are chosen. 2. Congress must meet at least once a year on the first Monday in December, unless a different day is set by law. Article 1, Section 5, Powers and Duties of the House. Clause 1. Each House shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Clause 2. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. 1. Each house judges its own elections and qualifications. A majority is needed for business, but a smaller number can adjourn or call absent members. 2. Each house sets its own rules, can punish members for misbehavior, and expel members with a 2/3 vote. Article 1, Section 5, Powers and Duties of the House. Clause 3. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy. And the yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. Clause 4. Neither house, during the session of Congress, shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two houses shall be sitting. 3. Each house keeps a journal of proceedings, publishes it, and records votes if requested by 1/5 of members. 4. Neither house can adjourn for more than 3 days or move to another place without the other's consent. Article 1, Section 6. Rights and disabilities of members. Clause 1. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services, to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and in going to and returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. The section in yellow was changed by the 27th Amendment. 1. Law determines the pay for senators and representatives, paid by the U.S. Treasury. They are protected from arrest during sessions and while traveling to and from, and cannot be questioned for their speeches or debates. Article 1, Section 6, Rights and Disabilities of Members. Clause 2. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office. 2. Senators and representatives cannot be appointed to certain U.S. offices during their term if the office was created or its pay increased while they were in office. Those holding U.S. office cannot be members of Congress while serving. Article 1, Section 7, Legislative Process. Clause 1. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. 1. All revenue bills must start in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may suggest changes. Article 1, Section 7, Legislative Process. Clause 2. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it, with his objections to that House in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal, and proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration 2/3 of that House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent, together with the objections, to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered, and if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. But in all such cases, the votes of both Houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each House respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law. 2. Bills passed by both houses must be sent to the President. If the President approves, he signs it. If not, he returns it with objections. If 2/3 of both houses agree, the bill becomes law. If the President doesn't act within 10 days, the bill becomes law unless Congress adjourns to prevent his return. Article 1, Section 7. Legislative Process. Clause 3. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. 3. Any order, resolution, or vote requiring both houses' approval must be sent to the President. If the President disapproves, it can become effective only if both houses repass it with a 2/3 majority. Article 1, Section 8. Definite powers of Congress. Clause 1. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Clause 2. To borrow money on the credit of the United States. Clause 3. To regulate commerce with foreign nations, and among the several states, and with the Indian tribes. 1. Congress can impose taxes and duties to pay debts and provide for defense and welfare, but these must be uniform nationwide. 2. Congress can borrow money on the nation's credit. 3. Congress can regulate trade with foreign nations, between states, and with Native American tribes. Article 1, Section 8. General Powers of Congress. Clause 4. To establish an uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Clause 5. To coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. Clause 6. To provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States. Clause 7. To establish post offices and post roads. 4. Congress can set rules for naturalization and bankruptcy laws nationwide. 5. Congress can mint money, control its value, and set measurement standards. 6. Congress can punish counterfeiting money and securities. 7. Congress can establish post offices and postal routes. Article 1, Section 8. General Powers of Congress. Clause 8. To promote the progress of science and useful arts, by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. Clause 9. To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. Clause 10. To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas, and offenses against the law of nations. 8. Congress can protect authors' and inventors' rights to their works for a limited time. 9. Congress can create lower courts beneath the Supreme Court. 10. Congress can define and punish piracy and crimes on the high seas or against international law. Article 1, Section 8. General Powers of Congress. Clause 11. To declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. Clause 12. To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years. Clause 13. To provide and maintain a navy. Clause 14. To make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces. 11. Congress can declare war, issue war-related letters, and set rules for capturing on land and water. 12. Congress can raise armies, but funding for them lasts only 2 years. 13. Congress can provide and maintain a navy. 14. Congress can make rules for governing and regulating the military. Article 1, Section 8, General Powers of Congress. Clause 15. To provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. Clause 16. to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. 15. Congress can call the militia to enforce laws, stop rebellions, and defend against invasions. 16. Congress can organize, arm, and train the militia, but states appoint officers and train them. Article 1, Section 8. General Powers of Congress. Clause 17. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may, by cession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state, in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. And, was 17. Congress has exclusive authority over the capital, up to 10 square miles, and places bought for forts, arsenals, and other necessary buildings. And, Article 1, Section 8, General Powers of Congress. Clause 18. To make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States, or in any department or officer thereof. 18. Congress can make any laws needed to carry out its powers and the government's duties. Article 1, Section 9. Powers denied Congress. Clause 1. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit, shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation, not exceeding $10 for each person. Clause 2. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended, unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. The portion in yellow was changed by the 13th Amendment. 1. Congress cannot stop the importation of people until 1808, but can tax it up to $10 per person. 2. The right to habeas corpus can only be suspended in cases of rebellion or invasion for public safety. Article 1, Section 9. Powers denied Congress. Clause 3. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. Clause 4. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid, unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein, before directed to be taken. Clause 5. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. The portion in yellow was changed by the 16th Amendment. 3. No laws that punish people without trial or retroactively make actions illegal. 4. Direct taxes must be in proportion to the census. 5. No taxes on goods exported from any state. Article 1, Section 9. Powers denied Congress. Clause 6. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. Clause 7. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law, and a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. 6. No state's ports can be favored over another's, and ships don't have to stop in other states for duties. 7. Money can only be spent as authorized by law, and regular reports of public spending must be published. Article 1, Section 10. Power denied to the states. Clause 1. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. 1. No state can make treaties, coin money, print bills, pass certain laws, or grant titles of nobility. Article 1, Section 10. Power denied to the states. Clause 2. No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws, and the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. 2. No state can tax imports or exports without Congress's consent, and any revenue must go to the U.S. Treasury. Article 1, Section 10. Power denied to the states. Clause 3. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops, or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state, or with a foreign power, or engage in war, unless actually invaded, or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. 3. No state can tax ship tonnage, maintain troops or warships in peace, make agreements with other states or foreign powers, or engage in war without Congress's consent, unless invaded or in imminent danger. Article 2, Section 1. The President. Clause 1. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and, together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected, as follows. 1. The executive power is held by the President, who serves a 4-year term, elected alongside the Vice President for the same term. Article 2, Section 1. The President. Clause 2. Each state shall appoint, in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct, a number of electors, equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative, or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States, shall be appointed an elector. 2. Each state selects electors equal to its number of senators and representatives, but no current senator, representative, or government official can be an elector. Article 2, Section 1. The President. Clause 3. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for, and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify, and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if there be more than one who have such majority, and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for President. And if no person have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list, the said House shall in like manner choose the President. But in choosing the President, the votes shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of the President, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the Vice President. But if there should remain 2 or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the Vice President. The portion in yellow was changed by the 12th Amendment. 3. Electors vote for 2 candidates, at least one from a different state. Their votes are counted in Congress. If a candidate gets a majority, they become president. If there's a tie, the House of Representatives chooses the president from the top 5 candidates, with each state having 1 vote. The candidate with the most votes becomes vice president, or the Senate chooses if there's a tie. Article 2, Section 1. The President. Clause 4. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. Clause 5. No person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. 4. Congress decides when electors vote, and the date must be the same across the U.S. 5. Only natural-born citizens, or those who were citizens when the Constitution was adopted, can be president. They must be at least 35 years old and have lived in the U.S. for 14 years. Article 2, Section 1. The President. Clause 6. In case of the removal of the President from office, or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall devolve on the Vice President, and the Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the President and Vice President, declaring what officer shall then act as President, and such officer shall act accordingly, until the disability be removed or a President shall be elected. The portion in yellow was changed by the 25th Amendment. 6. If the President is removed, dies, resigns, or is unable to do their job, the Vice President takes over. Congress can decide what happens if both the President and Vice President can't serve, naming someone to act as President until a new one is elected or the issue is resolved. Article 2, Section 1. The President. Clause 7. The President shall, at stated times, receive for his services a compensation, which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States, or any of them. Clause 8. Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. 7. The President's salary cannot be increased or decreased during their term, and they cannot receive any other payments from the U.S. government during that time. 8. Before taking office, the President must swear to faithfully execute their duties and protect the Constitution. Article 2, Section 2. Powers and duties of the President. Clause 1. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion, in writing, of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. 1. The President is the Commander-in-Chief of the military and state militias when called into service. He can ask for written opinions from department heads, and he has the power to grant pardons, except in impeachment cases. Article 2, Section 2. Powers and duties of the President. Clause 2. He shall have power, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur, and he shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers, as they think proper, in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments. 2. The President can make treaties and appoint key officials, like ambassadors and judges, with Senate approval. Congress can allow the President to appoint certain lower-level officers on his own. Article 2, Section 2. Powers and duties of the President. Clause 3. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. 3. The President can fill vacancies when the Senate is not in session, but these appointments end when the Senate returns. Article 2, Section 3. Other powers and duties. He shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the state of the Union, and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses, or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them, with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. The President must update Congress on the country's condition, suggest necessary actions, and may call Congress to meet. He can also settle disagreements between houses on when to adjourn, receive foreign ambassadors, ensure laws are followed, and appoint U.S. officers. Article 2, Section 4. Impeachment. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. The President, Vice President, and all U.S. officials can be removed if impeached and convicted of treason, bribery, or serious crimes. Article 3, Section 1. Judicial Powers. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall, at stated times, receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. The U.S. judicial power is in the Supreme Court and lower courts set by Congress. Judges serve for good behavior and can't have their pay reduced while in office. Article 3, Section 2. Jurisdiction. Clause 1. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made, or which shall be made, under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects. The portion in yellow was changed by the 11th Amendment. 1. Judicial power covers cases involving the Constitution, U.S. laws, treaties, ambassadors, admiralty, disputes with the U.S. or between states, citizens from different states, land claims, and foreign states. Article 3, Section 2. Jurisdiction. Clause 2. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, and those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all the other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to law and fact, with such exceptions, and under such regulations as the Congress shall make. 2. The Supreme Court has original jurisdiction in cases involving ambassadors, ministers, consuls, and states. In other cases, it has appellate jurisdiction. Congress can set exceptions and regulations. Article 3, Section 2. Jurisdiction. Clause 3. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed. 3. Crimes, except impeachment, will be tried by jury in the state where they occurred. If not in a state, Congress will set the trial location. Article 3, Section 3, Treason. Clause 1. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act or on confession in open court. Clause 2. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. 1. Treason is waging war against the U.S. or helping its enemies. Conviction requires 2 witnesses or a confession. 2. Congress sets the punishment, but no punishment affects the family or property after death. Article 4, Section 1. Full faith and credit. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state. And the Congress may by general laws prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved, and the effect thereof. States must recognize the laws, records, and court decisions of other states. Congress can set rules for proving and applying them. Article 4, Section 2, Interstate Comity. Clause 1, the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. Clause 2, a person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime, who shall flee from justice and be found in another state, shall on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered up, to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. 1. Citizens have the same rights in all states. 2. Fugitives must be returned to the state where the crime was committed. Article 4, Section 2, Interstate Comity. Clause 3. No person held to service or labor in one state, under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. The portion in yellow was changed by the 13th Amendment. 3. Escaped servants must be returned to their owners upon request, regardless of state laws. Article 4, Section 3, Admission of new states. Clause 1. New states may be admitted by the Congress into this Union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the junction of two or more states, or parts of states, without the consent of the legislatures of the states concerned, as well as of the Congress. Clause 2. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. 1. Congress can admit new states, but cannot form one within an existing state or by combining states without consent. 2. Congress also manages U.S. territories and property. Article 4, Section 4, Federal obligation to states. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this Union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislature or of the executive, when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence. The U.S. guarantees each state a republican government, protection from invasion, and help against domestic violence if requested. Article 5, Section 1, Amending the Constitution. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or, on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which, in either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes, as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment, which may be made prior to the year 1808, shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state, without its consent, shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. Amendments can be proposed by 2/3 of Congress or 2/3 of state legislatures and become part of the Constitution when approved by 3/4 of the states. No state can lose its equal Senate vote without consent. Article 6, Section 1, National Obligations. Clause 1. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. Clause 2. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. 1. Existing debts remain valid. 2. The Constitution and only laws and treaties made in pursuance thereof are the supreme law of the land. State constitutions and laws must comply with the federal Constitution to have legal authority. Article 6, Section 1. National obligations. Clause 3. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. 3. All federal and state officials must swear to support the Constitution. No religious test is required for public office. Article 7, Section 1. Ratification of the Constitution. The ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states so ratifying the same. The Constitution takes effect once 9 states ratify it. The next 3 slides are just a quick reference guide to the Constitution. This concludes the 21st class in this series on the Constitution. I hope you found the information helpful and entertaining. I will see you in class 22, where we will go over the 10 articles of the Bill of Rights and the other amendments to the Constitution. Fall out!